You've worn many hats over your vast career, but obviously you do have some interesting stories, let's say, in the development world from your previous life.
Yeah, well, maybe just to give a brief synopsis of my career history. Started off as a quantity surveyor when I was at university. I then went from university into consultant project management.
Some release reduced the red tape on going up to me, but it's just made it so hard to do it anyway.
It's expensive. I mean, it makes sense if you're inside the M25, I would suggest, because if you're building a flat on top of an existing office block, it might cost you somewhere between £200,000 to £300,000 a pop.
Prefab, modular, or traditional?
I would always lean towards traditional. I've done plenty of modular and use other modern methods of construction.
And how many bricks for the 2,000 square foot house?
About 14,000.
Strong effort. If it wasn't construction, what would it be? Modern?
Likely.
Welcome back. This is HORDE Build Different Podcasts, episode number 2. And today we're very privileged to have one of our very highly valued team members at HORDE here with us, David Drew, who has been with us now for
Nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2 years. Jesus. And, well, I'll let David introduce himself on what his role is and what he gets up to.
Title at HORDE is Technical Services Director. Basically head up the project management quantity survey division and front end the negotiations with developers.
What's your day-to-day, day of the life for David?
Day-to-day life very varied. It could be site visits, it could be day-to-day project management, overseeing the work of my team.
And how big's your team?
Well, it's 3 currently.
Yeah.
It's
room for growth.
room for growth with the number of projects we've got on, but without source, we're probably about 5.
And obviously, like we spoke on the first episode, obviously with our HORDE over the last year, we've managed to launch the development business, and obviously David has been pivotal in helping us, bring us the expertise in house to allow us to do the development projects and act as a developer. And obviously, part of your role before you joined HORDE, obviously you've worn many hats over your vast career, but obviously you do have some interesting stories, let's say, in the development world from your previous life.
Yeah, well, maybe just to give a brief synopsis of my career history. Started off as a quantity surveyor when I was at university. I then went from university into consultant project management. I then was doing that for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into the property development world for about 13, 14 years. Initially for 5 or 6 years I was based in London, in St James, and then latterly in my project property development career I was based in South Wales. So I did that for 12, 13 years and then moved out of that back into consultancy. I had a 4-year stretch as operational director of a main contractor organisation, delivering probably 1,500 to 2,000 apartments over that period, over 4 or 5 years, and then back into consultancy with HORDE. So poacher turned gamekeeper, turned poacher, then back to gamekeeper.
So there's a few, obviously we've spoke loads about your previous experiences and what you've been involved with, but a couple of things there. So when you were delivering the residential units, they were mostly office to residential conversions. When that sort of first came about,
yeah, that way. In fact, all of those 1,500 to 2,000 units, in various roles, working for the developer, working as a consultant, and then more latterly as the operations director of the construction company, which was effectively a partnering organisation with the not pension fund, what they're called, asset managers. They were all office to resi PD schemes. The smallest was, I think, 27 units, and the largest was just under 300 in Swindon.
Was that early days, PD being
Yeah, it was probably on the initial sort of 2 or 3 years. Then the rules changed. We curtailed it a little bit, but then the rules changed back again to bring more homes online. So it was a sort of ebb and flow of work. But yeah, but pretty much all PD work when I was out operating as a an owner contractor.
And obviously, we still see at the moment, obviously, stuff we're delivering and sites we get involved with. Obviously, the office to resi is quite ripe still at the moment. I think obviously where I was keen to get your thoughts on it, but the obviously the issue you've got with a lot of commercial assets suffering on value or stagnating in value, borrowing costs going up, occupier demands completely changing in the commercial space, kind of makes a lot of the 80s, 90s office buildings and even prior to that almost redundant because they've got big floor plates, cramming desks in, and that makes them quite an interesting model to look at residential conversion. But I suppose because you've done so many of them over the years, like what are the most common pitfalls in PD that you come across?
It very much depends on the condition of the existing property, how much work you need to do to knock it about to make it deliverable as a residential scheme. If you put a lot of new structural support into the floors or into the columns, then that can make it really tricky. I think the trick when you're appraising a site is finding ones that have floor plates that are easy to convert and you're not ending up with compromised flats, because that's where a lot of PD schemes go wrong. They shoehorn too many flats into the footprint, and they end up being compromised, and the value either won't sell. Having a good design team helps, and having the building surveyed to death before you start, which isn't always possible, because when you buy a new building, obviously you can't get your hands on it. You can't strip it out, pull it to pieces until you've actually completed on the purchase. Then you're almost permitted at that point, and that's when you can do the full soft strip and the full investigation. So that the trick is trying to get as much building pathology at an early stage, so you understand what the spec works is early.
Building surveyor's favourite term, building pathology. Then.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting point you made about cramming the flats in, because obviously as a developer, what all developers are trying to do is maximise GDV, and they think if they can grab 2-3 more units in, the GDV goes up. But then what they maybe don't consider sometimes, potentially, is that, like you say, there's 2 or 3 more flats in there, but those flats are going to sit on the market for 12, 18 months, and that's where their interest rates when they're borrowing, it's
Quite easy to get people that actually want to live in them. After that.
Yeah, and the net value of, if they are set in the market for 12 to 18 months, by the time you're taking your borrowing costs off of it, you're probably in a position.
Most of the schemes that I've worked on were PRS, so they were built to rent. The ones that were built to sell, obviously you take a different approach, but I think the model that's more sustainable was built to PRS, built to rent, so that you can take the income stream, refinance the development loan to an investment loan on completion, take the income stream.
And just for you as well, I guess.
Yeah, you can package it together, sell them off to fund for an income stream. When they're being sold, it's a bit more tricky because all your profits tied up in the last 15-20% of the flats, and they're usually the compromised flats that you can't sell. You have to get rid of a knockdown price. So I always think that if you can build and hold, that's a more sustainable, as an easier model to stand up, I think.
Yeah, and interestingly, where the market is quite tricky at the moment, we've actually seen firsthand, haven't we, 1 or 2 clients pivot into a student or rental model at the end once they've completed the flats because of
I think it seems to be in the industry now that people are moving more away from flats so much, and more into the single family residence, SFR. So just because that's what families want, and maybe there's an oversupply to some extent in some city centres of flats, and then also family friendly.
Flats are definitely taking a hit in the last few years. Like with them, there's blame COVID, but it's the back of COVID, just people valuing outdoor space more, and space and less. Okay, there's still a market for it, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing in the PD space now, and again, it'd be good to get your take, that see back in the day, but back in when you were initially doing it, 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah, sort of.
where building regulations were a little bit more relaxed. You didn't have all the fire safety issues, the Part L issues. Then you've got now energy efficiency issues. Borrowing costs were completely different. So the actual per square foot or development cost or build cost model now of PD must be completely different to what it was back then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're getting the values and the rents in, primary and secondary locations, but in tertiary locations, it's very difficult to make it stack up. Especially if you're looking to sweat the asset with airspace extensions or horizontal extensions, where you're just not getting the value back. It's costing you as much to build as it is as you're going to recoup from sales, especially if you're going vertically.
Yeah. So release reduced the red tape on going up to me, but it's just made it just so hard to do it anyway.
It's expensive. I mean, it makes sense if you're inside the M25, I would suggest, because if you're building a flat on top of an existing office block, it might cost you somewhere between, £200,000 to £300,000 a pop. You can sell them for $500,000 to $600,000. It makes sense. But if you're in a tertiary location where you're not going to get £250,000 for a 2-bedroom flat,
to £250 a square foot retail, you ain't going to make any money on it.
No, exactly. So that's why it needs to be cautious when looking. If you can assume it looks good on paper that you can build, an airspace extension, but is it really going to stand?
And how's the I know I'm talking to you like you're like it's different generation, but back when,
Why do you say that? When I was doing my LinkedIn research, David started his first job a month before I was born.
Really?
January 1995, apparently, and I was born Feb 95.
Yeah. Probably one at university.
imagine with big brick phone with pinstripe suit. They're both badass.
Now, when the first 2 years when I was working, I didn't upload my friends.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and
It's so much work.
and everything was done by letter or fax. But nowadays you can get done in half an hour what used to take you a day.
Trying to find a telephone box.
But I think the how deals were structured in terms of financing, so 10, 15 years ago, when you were dealing with banks and monitoring surveyors, obviously outboard we act as monitoring surveyors, we work for banks on doing the drawdown to the DV and stuff. But was it like that back then? Was it a bit easier? Was it a bit more unregulated, or was it kind of a similar sort of setup?
Obviously, there were a few lessons learned in the 2007-2008 crash. There were a lot of lax practices before then, and the banks tightened down their act pretty much after that. At the time, I was working for a property developer in London, and we had most of our senior debt with Anglo-Irish Bank, and we had a load of deals lined up with Lehman Brothers. Within sort of, 3 to 6 months of the bubble bursting, both Anglo-Irish Bank and Lehman Brothers were no more. So, and after that, with the Irish banks particularly going into NAMA, what they've introduced a lot more checks and balances to make sure that the slightly reckless lending that was happening before that 2008 bubble crash, doesn't happen again.
But you can still remember where you were, can't you, when you got the news at the crash?
Yeah, I was in Langham's.
Oh, you slap up lunch. Slap up later on.
With some bankers who basically gave me and the guy I was working with 3 months that you need to either restructure or get out because there's a crash coming. And it was a very sobering lunch. Especially we then found out within weeks that Lehman Brothers where we had our equity.
What was it actually like? I mean, that period of time?
It was scary. Thankfully, the developer I was working with at the time, we weren't massively extended. Had it happened a year or so before, it would have been tricky. But the banks worked with us. We didn't have any of our loans called in. We managed to develop out, and then just you work with the new normal a year later. But there were obviously the rules had changed slightly.
And did it affect? I suppose it didn't affect at the end of the development getting rid of the assets at all, or was it a bit slower to offload them?
Yeah, we weren't that. I say we were lucky with the timing that we were with the developments we had on at the time. We were able to exit before it got really mad, and then we just picked up some decent opportunities after that. Because there was a lot floating around because a lot of people went under. Not quite bottom feeding, but there were a lot of opportunities. A lot of developers will say in a downturn that's where the biggest opportunities are. But if you're exposed at that point, then it's difficult. But if you're not exposed and you've got equity behind you, you've got finance behind you, then you can make hay when everybody else, when the property industry crashes.
Obviously, there's a lot of talk at the moment that a recession's looming, or we're in a bit of a free fall, especially in the UK, or when you get into the political stuff. Because
quite that fast.
That's above our pay grade, all the political stuff. But do you see any similarities at the moment in terms of the market and the bubble bursting?
I think, but talking residential, there was a massive undersupply of new housing. I mean, the Labour government's target is 1.5 million homes, and to 2029, unless they sort out the planning regime. I can't see it happening. But I think whilst that demand stays high, then it's going to feed the residential market for sure.
Yeah, I think we've noticed it, and we're first hand looking at. There's a lot of sort of distressed stuff coming to market. There's a lot of part built opportunities coming to market.
Yes,
and I think that it's always a wary sign, isn't it? That there's obviously a lot of people that have gone into administration. Some notable names as well, both in the contracting and developer worlds of brands that like Octon, etc. Brands that you would think are market leaders, bulletproof, and they've been caught by the wayside, probably due to the stagnant sales market, not being able to get schemes earlier. But it's
obviously the mortgage market is tricky, which is why if you ever keep an eye on the rental market, but properties come and go really, really quickly.
The rental market, but mad.
It's mad, and obviously whilst that is, that is still, rent reviews still going up. People are going to be attracted to rent, and that's stimulating that part of the housing market. And I'm not sure I see that falling away just yet, because people can't get on the market the housing ladder to buy, so they might have to rent, which
Well, I think there's a bit of if you look at a place like Germany, I thought Germany's got something like 40-45% of people rent rather than buy, and that's
it's a cultural
still a choice.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. I mean, Germany has always been that way. You have big sort of corporate landlords, and people rent, and there isn't the sort of cultural thing that you need to own bricks and mortar.
Well, I think there's a shift going that way where there's people like the flexibility. I think where things have changed with work-life balances for people to be able to just upshot and go travelling for a year.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do it's difficult to do if you own a home. If I wanted to suddenly sell everything we've got and go sailing around the world, there's a hell of a lot of admin to do so. If I lived in a rented property, it's I'm a landlord, here's 8 weeks notice or whatever it is, and you can go. And it's easier with growth if you've got families and so on.
And if you can't, if you need to find the 25% deposit on what's the average house price now, 270,000. That's a lot of money to find, plus all the other moving costs. Stamp duty. It's a big barrier to entry. So people, of course, want to turn to the rental market, which is why houses shift so quickly and rents are so high. Amazing. I was driving through Egham recently, and there was a new development there. 2-bedroom flat renting for over £4,000 a month, and that's a lot of money. That's the top disposable income too, and it said from only £4,100 per month. Bucks.
Super money. It'd be good to also touch on the South Wales development stuff you're involved with, because I know from speaking to you prior to this that was a testing period, and there was quite a lot of it's a huge deal that you were trying to put together, a basic land assembly deal, and for one reason or another, there's a lot of years and years of hard work that didn't pay off.
Didn't quite pay off. Yeah, we had a number of deals that we were working with local landowners, also in conjunction with the local councils. I can't go into too much of the detail, but essentially the biggest deal we were working on was a 36-acre site in Cairo city centre. Got planning permission for it back in 2014 with a GDV of over 500 million. But with, I think there were 36 different parcels of land with 26 different landowners. Yeah, that's where they redefined the herding CAS. So that took up a lot of time, a lot of equity, a lot of investment, and we had to exit in the end to Vastint, which is the property arm of IKEA, to get out one.
What was the lesson learned there?
The lesson learned for me, my partners at the time might take a different view, but maybe in hindsight they would take a similar view, is that yes, you can chase these big deals and they are very attractive because when you look at the bottom line profit, all you need to do is have some smaller stuff going along in the background that just pays the day. Cash flows. Yeah, it's just giving you a regular income.
Eggs and baskets come to mind.
Yeah, there was certainly that was the issue for us at the time. Is we had all our eggs in one basket. Well, we had a couple of big schemes. There was another big one in Swansea, which I mean we still delivered, I don't know, 300 or 400 units over 3 or 4 years in South Wales. We had a big OG procurement which we went out and won to deliver, and we had funding with various funding partners to deliver affordable homes, which was a really interesting model, and I think it's still something that's untapped in terms of the investment into affordable housing. But that's probably a topic for another podcast. Of course, ideas on that.
I reckon before we let David go, no doubt we'll have him back another time. Should we run through our new section that we're going to have in each pod, which is our quickfire questions?
Oh dear.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Great. Let's move. Right. Go on. You ready? You've got approximately. You can't think about the answer. Just got to go. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. Well, I'll tell you.
Thought about that. Way too much. One myth you want to bust in the construction industry?
The property development is easy.
If you went back to your career 30 years ago, would you do it again?
I would probably choose the same sector, but I might have made some different decisions along the way.
Best project you worked on?
Most satisfying was a cradle to grave project I worked on in Edgware, which was a memorial hall and
Interesting.
Yeah, memorial hall and a cemetery for the Federation of Synagogues with umpteen different stakeholders. I was involved with the scheme for about 5 years. It wasn't a big project, but the most semi-rewarding.
Marmite, love it or hate it?
Love it on hot toast.
Prefab, modular or traditional?
I would always lean towards traditional. I've done plenty of modular and use other modern methods of construction. I'm yet to be convinced that it's the panacea that some people would argue, but maybe I'm better older.
Plus, I'm a bit younger. How many bricks for the 2,000 square foot house?
About 14,000.
Strong effort. Future of construction in one word?
Challenging. But it always has been.
Best bit of kit that you can use now that you didn't have 20 years ago?
His new iPad that he's scribbling.
Yeah, I've got a new.
I'm thinking about telehandlers. This was telehandlers, but
Yeah, telehandlers 20 years ago. I suppose the 3D Matterport surveys make life a lot easier for designers and contracted makes. Doing refurb schemes are a lot easier. A very reliable cost measurement data on existing buildings.
If it wasn't construction, what would it be? Model?
mostly. Oh, I've no idea.
I compare as a farmer.
I know some sort of sporting.
Professional paddle player. Yeah, the press ball might be that didn't exist a few years ago. But...
No.
And finally, what is your most memorable oh shit moment?
Is that on two homes?
It was oh fugger. Yeah.
Got any others?
Remember what you had?
I can't remember what I was eating. I can remember, the faces of the guys I was sat with. It's one of those planes that's seared, didn't you remember?
Nice. Well, unless it's got anything else for David today, I'm sure David will be back at another time because there's plenty more to dig into and find out about David's illustrious career.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us. Being a very good, short and sharp one today, due to diaries. But like you said, we'll be back next week with another episode. Who's our next guest?
To be disclosed, but they've got a sporting background and now moved into property.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, boys.